Hi, my name is Fran Odette, and I'm currently faculty with George Brown College. So I think in terms of what some of the issues might be for the 2SLGBTQ plus community who live with disabilities is I think that there is an overrepresentation of queer and LGBTQ plus youth. And I would offer probably youth with varying experiences around disability in sort of juvenile systems. The experiences of folks who are incarcerated, who might be experiencing, surveillance or encounters with the police. And I think, that is a very long history for our community back as, Stonewall, which was, in the US, but also, the bath raids that took place here in the early 80s. Stonewall uprising or the rebellion actually occurred in New York City, where there were demonstrations by members of the LGBTQ plus communities in response to police raids that took place on a particular evening in June of 1969. Folks with sort of invisible experiences around disability, coupled with racism and homophobia, and I would also say sexism, because we know that gendered bodies also experience very, very horrific treatment in the justice system. When we are looking at this sort of concept around intersectionality and how it relates to the LGBTQ plus communities who are also living with disabilities, I would, I think I want to say that in my 25 plus years doing activist work and, sort of maybe not as long as being part of the LGBT community, as a disabled person, I haven't particularly felt welcomed. The justice system is also a fallout of a system that I think is, very much focused on white, patriarchal, heteronormative structures. And so because of that, and I would say ableist structures as well, and because of that, folks who are racialized, BIPOC folks who might be incarcerated and are living with experiences of disability, more often than not, their sort of quote unquote behavior or their actions are attributed to this kind of historical way of looking at Black and brown bodies as being, criminal or lacking character or morality, when really, that person's behavior, actions may be a part of their experience of disability. For folks who are part of the trans community, who are non-binary and are also living with, sort of layered identities, I think their interactions with the justice system actually has been horrific. I mean, I've heard of trans women being put in solitary confinement, quote unquote, for their protection, sort of consider, particularly as it relates to the work of Black Lives Matter and other sort of social justice movements, where this has been maybe a response to the kind of targeted police violence that has occurred towards, marginalized communities like Black, Indigenous, people of color, that I think that we, a solution is really, we need to defund the police. The police are, not equipped, not trained, and I think quite frankly are part of a very damaging system, and don't have the skills to work with people who are in distress And their first go-to is what we're seeing is the number of police killings of Black and Indigenous people. I think that many, of the folks who did um, uh, come up against police and were murdered by the police, I would suspect that some of those folks also were living with invisible disabilities, you know, undiagnosed psychiatric distress, or perhaps living with autism.